This is the start of pattern blinding. Again, I don't do pattern blinds until I got those back pile drills down that I've showed you. That's what I start doing on pattern blinding, and I don't have it set up like I would if it was fully introduction. So a lot of times on the pattern blind at first, I like to put something out there. So that right there is the tree, and I got some white bumpers under the tree. I don't know if you can see them on the video or not, but I would normally put a white bucket there, like an Ace Hardware white bucket. I put that there so the dog really identifies that. Have them run to that bucket, because I don't want to any longer be identifying the pile and throwing. And so I start out pretty close. I work my way back, and I don't move on to this from this until I say back to a dog and it carries 100, 150 yards. Like I want that dog carrying that distance straight. I'm not having to whistle. I pointed towards that. It knows the pattern, the blind's there. And so I start with the buckets, and then there's a drill I'll show you later. This is a W pattern. And on that one, I start out by having 5 buckets out, white buckets out. Because the key is I want that dog to run to a line, not necessarily hide it and it be a real blind, kind of like a sight blind pattern every time. So we'd have this at the tree, and let's say that your dog's been running back pile, it's good on the back pile. So you could start this drill, let's say at 25, 50 yards right off the bat. Fantastic. They carry that. Okay, that's good. Don't move on from that. Even if on the first day your dog's been doing long back piles and you already have back piles down with your dog, and you go out to 100 yards and it hits it, that's fine. What I like to do with pattern blinds, particularly if you could do it morning, evening, day to day if you have to. People have work schedules, I know, and daylight sucks around here at this time of year, but if you can get out in the morning and do this drill real quick, short, 15 minutes, right? And then come back in the evening, leave bumpers out, come back in the evening, set the dog up. If the dog focuses in the right direction without re-identifying it, send it. And that's the pattern. It starts to run a blind knowing I've been there before. And so if you can do it intraday like that, or day to day, at least the next day, come back out, and then you might have to re-identify it. So again, I don't like to chuck. So here's how I do it. I start with the white bucket. I'll go over, I'll hold, I'll put the dog at sit where I want the dog at sit. I'll go over to the bucket, I'll drop it, and I'll say dead bird. And I will walk the line that I want the dog to run back to the dog, heel the dog onto that line, and send it to the mark I just dropped saying dead bird. Then I will try to resend the dog again. If the dog does not go on that second time, I set the dog, I drop it, dead bird, go back, send it again. On the third time, if that dog does not go to that pile, I walk with the dog to the pile. I sit them down at the pile, and I walk back and I blow a come-in whistle and call the dog to me, have the dog run the line I want to run to me, turn around and run back right where it was. If that dog comes back with a bumper, it's okay. Don't correct the dog for picking up the bumper. If you do come in and whistle and it grabs a bumper before it comes in, that's fine. That doesn't matter. Have enough bumpers out there. And so that's what I'll do. And then every day I'll move back. So when I do the pattern, if I say in the morning I work out one day and I'm at 100 yards, in the evening when I come back out and try to run it as a pattern without reestablishing the pile, I'll do it at 75. I'll do it at 75 yards or 50 yards. I cut the distance depending on how confident I'm feeling I'm getting from the dog, right? If the dog does not go or has confusion or spins or does any of that stuff, I don't use juice in this drill at all. There's force to pile. There's a case to be made for force to pile, but I don't think on pattern blinds. That's just me with the type of dogs I run. People have different opinions. I wouldn't do it. I'd heel the dog, walk directly towards the pile, sit the dog, identify the pile with the dead bird, walk back to the dog, send the dog. I'd get that dog going confidently, consistently. If there's any confusion at all, I'd have that dog. Now, that's how to do it if you're solo. If you have someone with you, then your life just got a lot easier, because you can heel, walk up, put your hand in the air, have that person, dead bird, drop it, walk 6 feet to the right, 6 feet to the left of the pile, you send the dog, right? And so you can have a helper to re-identify the pile on a dead bird drop. I don't like to make it a mark and throw it and identify it like we do when you're doing pile work and the rest, but dead bird, drop it out. And remember, you can have that dog resit on that line, and then the dog come to you and then rerun that pile work. So I don't do a lot of stop on this too, because when I'm running pattern blinds, I only stop the dog if the dog's offline. That's me. Other people want to get that whistle stop drill. I'll do that against the fence like we talked about in one video. I'll do that in the double T to make sure that it's there, like I said. But for me, if that dog's online in this, I want it to carry. I'm teaching the dog to carry. You have the 3-hand cast. You can set bumpers up like a baseball diamond and sit in the middle and cast. I didn't show you that drill because it's self-evident if you know the 3-hand cast. So you can set up all kinds of handling drills separately. On this one, if you're wanting your dog to carry and really hard charge and run long blinds, I don't stop them if they're online. And I think it reinforces the fact that, like, hey, you're doing something correct, you get to keep going. Oh, I'm blowing a whistle, you're not where you're supposed to be. So I just think it continues to reinforce that. I know a lot of people that will stop the dog multiple times to establish control on a pattern blind. That's just not for me. It's not for me. So anyway, so let me show you what I'm talking about. So instead of just walking out there, everyone knows I walk out there and drop it and do a dead bird. I'll do this before we do a more complex pattern drill. And I'll have the dog sit at the pile. I'll call him in and rerun that line just to show you how that establishes the pile. I hope you can see this good. I'm not professional on this. I drew this out. This is my progression, okay? And I wish I could say I did this perfectly with all the dogs. I got this in Brody, and it's kind of something I've developed, again, following other people, piecing things together. But for me, this really works well with high drive dogs. So take that for what it is. But we do this pattern blind that I talked about, morning, evening, or every day for a little while, if that's what you have to do, if you can't do the morning, evening, right? It's just dog and handler, and then the pile, and you're increasing the distance. That's my first phase. My second phase is to have the same pile in the same area. I'd have the distance. So if I've worked out to 100 yards, 150 yards, where I come back into 75 or 50 yards, again, depending on the dog's drive, and I run the pile, which it's used to, then I move to the right and I run an angle to that same pile. So I'm going to the same spot, but I'm taking another line to it. Then I cross over my original line, come over here, and that's kind of the harder one, whatever one you choose as your third destination, and then I run to the pile at an angle on that, okay? When I have the dog successfully carrying these things and confident to that pile at all these angles, and some dogs is quick, some dogs the angle, they get offline, you have to handle them in, and so you're trying to get them where you can run each one of these a couple times with no handle, and the dog nails a pattern. And this is, again, something do one time through in the morning, one time in the evening. The dog will pick it up fast if it's in 15-20 minute burst consistency versus doing it for an hour on Monday and not revisiting it until Thursday or Friday. It's just like you're better off 15 minutes a day than you are 3 hours on a Saturday. That's just the way their brain works. The way we work when you work out. You can't work out 6 hours on Saturday and make up skipping workout Monday, Wednesday, and Friday like I did this week and gain 3 pounds, right? So anyway, that's my personal problems. But the third leg of this that I do is then I establish 3 piles. Now, when you do this, you start with that same pile you have in the same spot before. You had a pile to the right, you had a pile left. You run this, okay? You don't run these angles initially. Your second step is here, okay? You go sit the dog at that pile, call him to you, and you run that as a pattern blind, okay? And then you go to the third station, you sit the dog at the pile, run that. A lot of times that's all you do the first day. Then you come back out in the evening, hit that, hit that, hit that, do the straight lines. Then in the third day, you come back, hit that, hit that, hit that, come back to the first station, And instead of running outside in, run inside out to those out piles, right? So then on that third go around, if the dog's doing well, like these numbers aren't hard. It's not like, oh, your dog should be at this the third time. Depends on how this is going, right? So your dog may pick these things up at different speed. That doesn't mean it's going to be any better or less of a dog, you know, a year from now, 3 testing seasons from now. They might learn slower, but cement harder and can keep it with them better. You just don't know. So don't be in a rush. It's a feel thing. But if they're really doing well, okay, and then you're on that third time, then you're at this pile, right? So you're hitting that, you're hitting that, you're hitting that, you're coming back to the middle, then you're hitting the left, and you're hitting the right. From the middle, you're going outside, okay? When the dog is doing that without casting and knows that pattern very well, sorry it's raining, getting wet here, I go to the fourth. Hopefully didn't lose it too much, so you guys saw that. If the dog's hitting all of these without casting, okay, I go to the fourth scenario. The fourth scenario is a W. Now, I started my pile work, or my pattern blind, excuse me, with a white bucket. I told you, like a hardware bucket, right? So I start the W with 5 white buckets, and I make it in a W. Casting. Then I go to the W. The W, I put up 5 white buckets in the shape of a W, and you're running to each one of these stations. You can see the center one is past these 2 close ones. The concept in the T, the lining outside, is a concept from the pile lining drill we did. And I want to get to the point, camera's dropping, where the dog is doing all those levels without casting, and a lot of times you're gonna have to cast because they're running by other piles. So I'll show the W drill after. The wind is too much. So here's Brody out the pile waiting. So this is how I establish it. I say that's a dead bird pile, and then I call him in. Remember, if he brings a bumper, I don't care. I'm gonna have him rerun the line he ran to me. Heel. Sit. Good. Okay. Then I'm gonna sit him heel. I'm gonna tell him dead bird. Back. Heel. Sit. Okay. Then I would just pick up the bumpers. Definitely don't want to leave any bumpers. I would walk out. Let's call it 20 feet, 15 feet, whatever. I'm gonna have them run by the tripod, so this should be interesting. Okay, heel, sit. You're going back to the same spot. Here, here, here. Hey, that bird, back. That was offline on the handle, back. It's getting online. Now, I'm not gonna move this time. Why am I not gonna move? I had to handle, right? Heel, heel. Good, sit. So if you have to handle, don't move. Here, sit. Here, hey, dead bird, back. It's going around that tripod, I'll let it go. He got to stop going left, so he wanted to go right around the tripod. But anyway, he's successful with this. So what am I going to do? I'm going to move back. Heel. Like another 10, 15 yards. And I just keep walking that out. And that's the first leg of the pattern blind. So whatever distance I end at in this drill, like if I get 100 yards out, we're already here. Heel. If I get 100 yards out, if I get, 50 yards out, whatever I get, then I would come back in the evening. It is evening, but I'd come back in the morning, whatever. My next session, I'm going to cut the distance in half. I'm going to start working my way back again on that. So that's how I start establishing the pattern blind. and then I'll walk through all those progressions.